crooks in the black robes. Glendora could go back to Brian and say, the appeal you forced me to take failed, and now you have the trial calendar again. But we all know Charles Brian is dedicated to the ring. We all know he will say no and make a fool of himself again with another illiterate order. Glendora has had Charles L. in the U.S. Court of Appeals, the Second Circuit, for robbing her of her trial in the United States Supreme Court. She was briefed to the United States Court of Appeals Groundhog Day, 19 for Charles L. Brian for robbing her trial the second time. First appeal of CLB was January 11, 1995, a pro se via United States District Judge. It was the same case, Glendora versus Cable. Charles L. Brian still has to fulfill the mandate of the circuit. He has the case since December 93 and has not been here on February the 5th, 97. Next week I will try to pay you. That was you're up to page, and it goes to page 20. Isn't it sad what is happening to America? Isn't it sad? Signs that they have in hotels. Anything? Gotta change it to. Have you anything? And one traveler went up to the room clerk and said, the room clerk said to him, do you want a room with a shower with a tub? And what's the difference? And the room clerk says, well, with a tub, you get a chance. And the law clerk says, he says, the judge and I have the judge and I have a strange and wonderful relationship. He's strange and I'm wonderful. I have some announcements to read you. We want our own public access channel for telecare. And the Rules and Regulations 594 says that any cable company who has over 20 channels has to provide that. So you can see that Dolan Tata and Cablevision is violating the law, and we in the public access movement in Long Island are going to get after them. And on the basis of that law, we must have our own public access channel and no more share telecare. And I think that Cablevision editing equipment is very, very good. I like it a lot, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to edit there. And I just love the way it goes. And I told you about Eugene McGrath. I wrote to him. He's the president of Con Edison, and he had a man come and inspect everything. And the man said that the increase, our Con Ed bill, there's only 2 of us, it's only 4 rooms, it's gone up something like $15 a month in the past 3 years. And that's an increase of 30, what did they tell him it was? An increase of 30, let me get out the letter. So he said it was the fuel. Mr. Walco came and he said it is the fuel adjustments have gone up tremendously. That's because the price of oil has gone up, from which they make electricity. Anytime you feel like quitting, says Richard Montanez, who is the counter clerk at the U.S. Court of Appeals, 44 Week Square. Anytime you feel like quitting throughout your career, perhaps you'll remember the story of one of our people. He failed in business in 31. He ran as a state legislator and lost in 32. He tried business again in 33 and failed again. His sweetheart died in 35. He had a nervous breakdown in 36. He ran for state elector in 40 after he regained his health. He was defeated for Congress in 43, defeated again for Congress in 48, defeated when he ran for the Senate in 55, and defeated for Vice Presidency of the United States in 56. He ran for the Senate again in 58 and lost. This man never quit. He kept on trying till the last. In 1860, this man, Abraham Lincoln, was elected President of the United States. NYNEX, they try to sell you this stuff, like call waiting and all this stuff that you can get by simply buying a telephone instrument. It's all in the instrument, and they try to sell it to you with, well, it's no installation charge now, but ordinarily an installation charge and then a monthly charge. And it's such a rip-off and it's such a deception. And they've been doing it for years. Glendora goes into courts pro se, and she's proud to do so. You want to know why? Because she's reminding everybody that the courts are a public process. They are not entirely owned by lawyers and judges. So she goes into pro se, standing up for the fact that courts are public. Okay, somebody told me that because of the things I say in my legal papers, that the courts are watching me. What's that mean? Well, you're getting their attention. I'm still not sure what that means. Whether they're trying to do this to hurt me or to retaliate or to stop me or to bury me or what. But anyway, I'm glad that I've got their attention, because I'm glad that they're finding out that they're betraying the United States of America. Isn't what Cousin Will Pisani died for. Public forum. If you have an announcement, call me and tell me about it. This is public access. It's a public forum, like a park or a street or a sidewalk or a bench. On a judicial bench. Smith on Glendora versus Hosletter, Continental, U.S. West, McCormick, Lillis, and all those people who violated the public access law. Public access is first come, first served. They took the program off every other week, Saturday, and put on another program, broke all the laws. Lied and covered up for years, months. Let's see, what is it now? It started in August of '95. So it's a year and a half. This is the middle of February now. They're supposed to put us back on every Saturday the way we were. But anyway, Smith hasn't done anything on that order, and I haven't had a chance to call her again. She's a magistrate. She has before her a motion for summary judgment to get rid of my case. So we still have that question, what shall we do about it? Shall we go in there and assert our rights in uncertain terms, or should we let it ride for a while? On the other front, for the same group of cable operator lawbreakers, we have Judge Parker did not grant a temporary restraining order and preliminary injunction, and he betrayed America. Free speech, Constitution, and all that America stands for, and all that America's fine youth gave their lives for. That was in the appellate United States Court of Appeals, Second Circuit. Before them was a petition for re-argument en banc, the whole 25 judges. Disaster. Finally, after 4 weeks, they got around to saying no, which they were going to say anyway. So that means that that's ready to go to the United States Court of Appeals. Your pardon, to the United States Supreme Court. So there's another one up there. So that takes care of Continental. Now we move on to Telecommunications Incorporated, Bob Magnus from John C. Malone. There were 3 papers went in today, February 10th on that. And then today there was an oral argument. I can read you the 3 papers, and I can tell you that I spent 10 hours preparing for the oral argument. Here are 3 or 4 letter briefs. Glendora versus Magnus, United States Magistrate Judge Mark D. Fox, undesignated magistrate, letter brief number 57, February 7th, 1997, Friday. And this is page 11,455. Proof is enclosed for your information that Bertram Perkle does not know what he is doing, does not represent my defendants, that my defendants are not represented, are in default, and owe me $600 million. Further, this is proof that J.N. Koenig is out and does not represent my defendants. Yours in truth, Glendora. And this went to a huge number of people. Fox, Rakoff, Perkle, Koenig, Glenn, BRS, Malone, the Center for Judicial Accountability, Zobel, the Federal Judicial Center, Mecum, Administration, U.S. Courts. And it took 4 hours, and it took $4.64. Well, here is the proof. Here's the crazy letter that Bertram Perkle of Baker and Botts, 599 Lexington Avenue, wrote. Now this is to the United States Court of Appeals. On the way down to Manhattan to argue against $1,000 lawyers' fees for the Cablevision derivative action, where I prevailed and got it cut down to $150,000. This is what I wrote. There is no case in the Court of Appeals, United States Second Circuit, named Glendora versus Marshall. Perkle does not know for whom he allegedly is the lead attorney. There is a case with docket number 969686 with official short caption Glendora versus Malone. The United States Court of Appeals Second Circuit does not number cases 9686. So you see, B. Perkle is not competent enough to be anybody's lead attorney, nor has he ever sworn under penalty of perjury, not ever. And here, January 31st, 1997, he blithely tells 2 lies. There is no case Glendora versus Magnus in the United States Court of Appeals, Second Circuit. Glendora versus Magnus is in the United States District Court, Southern District of New York, very actively being considered before Judge Janice Rakoff. In fact, it hasn't. It's not even dismissed yet. So why would it be in the United States Court of Appeals? Glendora versus Magnus is 96 Civ 7518. How much more incompetent can the attorney get? Glendora versus Magnus is not on appeal. The United States Court of Appeals Second Circuit has no jurisdiction on it. There is a case, Glendora versus Telecommunications, 96 Civ 4270, but it is not in the United States Court of Appeals Second Circuit. A Rule 60B motion is before United States District Judge, Southern District of New York, Barbara S. Jones. So how much more can B. Perkle disqualify himself? It is, as Glendora said all along, her defendants are not represented, are in default, and owe her $350 million. Nowhere in Glendora versus Malone, 969686 is there a notice of appearance by B. Perkle. A fraud is being committed on the appearance notice. Glendora is sending a copy of the saga super to a notice. Glendora is sending a copy of the saga to the lead executive of Telecommunications Incorporated, John C. Malone, since his chairman, Bob Magnus, went to his grave right after he robbed public access producers of their TV production facilities. B. Perkel never knows the rules. He wrote J.S. Rakoff a letter when J.S. Rakoff prohibits all correspondence to the court unless requested and approved. B. Perkel does not know that any application in the United States Court of Appeals, the Second Circuit, has to be done on a T-1080 form. This is their T-1080 form, folks. It's a motion form. And it's very clever. It's very well done. Can you imagine a lawyer making that many mistakes? And when I told the clerk, you know, all these mistakes that were being made, the clerk said, oh, he must be a lawyer. Perkel never knows the rules. He wrote J.S. Rakoff a letter, and it wasn't on a T-1080 form, such as the within, how much more incompetent can a lead attorney get. Plaintiff Glendora moves the United States Court of Appeals Second Circuit to strike Baker Bott's letter out January 31st, 1997, not received by her until February 6, 1997, Thursday, 6 p.m., and answered immediately. The court got it before I did. Glendora opposes any consolidation of her cases. The causes of action are different, the judges are different, the defendants are different, the orders are different, the decisions are different. Consolidating significance is against the public interest. 50 pages of appellant's brief cannot cover 2 lawsuits, nor can 25 pages of appellant's reply briefs, nor can this court's prejudice policy of limiting pro se oral argument to 5 minutes. Glendora moves that any consolidation be denied. Glendora versus Malone is closely tied in with Time Warner versus New York City, scheduled for oral argument February 19th. Anno Domini, docket is 96-95-15. Appeals are months apart. Glendora versus Malone has already been submitted. Appellant's brief, February the 3rd, 1997, with appellant's exhibits. Oral argument is coming up as early as April Fool's Day. Dated White Plains, New York, February 7, 1997, 9:46 a.m. while riding on the FDR on the way to 40 Foley Square. Yours in truth, Glendora, Chapman, Glendora. This is letter brief number 6058. Glendora is prejudiced by J.M. Kearney's untimely answer to her motion for summary and to her opposition to J.N. Kearney's motion to dismiss, wherein defendant John C. Malone did not appear and is in default. It is only fair that this mess J.W. Kearney made out of your order and defiance thereof be taken out of his 15 minutes for oral argument, and that no minutes be taken out of Glendora's 15 minutes to clean up the debris made by J.N. Kearney. On this subject, Glendora requests in Second Circuit tradition 13 minutes for presentation, save 2 minutes for rebuttal. Your order January the 17th, 1997 was motion submitted January 24th, oppositions January 31st. Reply affidavits February 7th, January 31st is when Kearney should have had in the letter received by Glendora January 6 p.m. It did not give plaintiff time to answer before oral argument. February 10th, 1997, March 10th, and that was this morning. Tardiness, last-minute submissions, no affidavit of service, no pagination, no paragraph numbering, sloppiness, amateurism is the trademark of J.N. Kearney, falsely wrapped, Bertram Perkel, and Ann Salisbury, for whom Judge Bryant berated them January the 17th at 10:30 a.m. after your conference. Is it reasonable, therefore, that such rinky-dinks should be representing billionaires Bob Magnus, John C. Malone, and telecommunications? No, it is not. And it is unreasonable that you should say they are. Has J. Kearney produced a notice of appearance? No. And he lied to you that he had filed one, and you let him get away with it. Says Kearney, defendants have received the opposition of plaintiff Glendora to defendant's motion to dismiss the complaint in the above captioned case, and upon review thereof, we believe that no constructive purpose would be served by any further reply. This means Glendora has won her summary judgment. This shows what Glendora has said all along. Defendants have no defense and never will have. Defendants have no meritorious defense. J.N. Koenig and B. Perkel do not dispute the facts. Further, it is not the defendants who have received Glendora's opposition. She sent it to only the defendant, John C. Malone. Yours truth, Glendora. This is letter brief 59. This was handed in and served today. Mark D. Fox, undesignated magistrate, writes J.N. Koenig in a letter received by Glendora 6 p.m. February 6, 1997, Thursday. At the present time, all papers in support of in opposition to the defendant's motion to dismiss the complaint and the plaintiff's motion for summary judgment in this action have been filed with the court. With the concurrence of Mr. Perkel, I can advise the defendants have no objection to this court's disposition of these motions without oral argument. Where is the proof that Mr. Perkel concurs? Mr. Perkel was there this morning for the oral argument. So was Salisbury, and so was Koenig. B. Perkel told the U.S. Court of Appeals he is the attorney for my defendants in Glendora versus Magnus. How much longer are you going to be permissive of these lies? Because Koenig said he's a lawyer for them. And Perkel says he's a lawyer for Malone, but Colorado TCI says that Koenig says he's the lawyer for Magnus, but TCI Denver says that Perkel is the lawyer for Magnus. J.N. Koenig lies on two more accounts. All papers are not submitted, not when he defaults on the January 35th opposition date and delays his opposition to February 6th, and Glendora has no time for a reply affidavit. Of course, Glendora is opposed to no oral argument. She's been granted oral argument by the court January 17th, and nobody's going to rob her of it. This time, this court has to keep its word and not go back on it, and it did robbing of her caption and robbing of discovery promised to her December 12, 1997. First conference, Glendora versus Magnus. Defendants have no knowledge of these motions. Only defendant Malone has been sent on motion for summary judgment. J.N. Koenig admits he cannot oppose summary judgment, so Glendora wins. J.N. Koenig admits he cannot reply to Glendora's opposition to his motion to dismiss on which J.C. Malone was not represented. Billionaires should be able to buy real lawyers, not these rinky-dinks, so it is not reasonable for you to cover up their lie. They are representing my defendants. J.N. Koenig says all papers are submitted, yet he submits a letter with the lie. All papers are submitted. And he never follows your order, just as he never follows Judge Bryant's orders for two-page, double-spaced letter briefs. They are single-spaced. Glendora refutes J.N. Koenig's lie about Rule 9 and TSAT in letter brief number 70. J.N. Koenig and B. Perkel are afraid to have oral argument. Now we're on to letter brief 60, which was handed in today. Mark D. Fox, undesignated magistrate. This is a lie and a cover-up. This court should never reject this argument. Prima facie, it has no substance. And the argument is in conjunction with our motion to dismiss filed on behalf of defendants herein. We provided the court with a notice of disclosure of corporate affiliations pursuant to General Rule 9 of the local rules of this court. Our filing dated January 23, 1997 related to the publicly traded parent, subsidiaries, and affiliates of Telecommunications Incorporated, and was criticized by plaintiff Glendora in her opposition to this motion. Well, TSAT-B and TSAT-A are TCI entities and subsidiaries and are on the market and are sold under those stock symbols. That is the lie that they told. And there's a 200-page book on that. I read it to you. I read many pages from it, rather, or many paragraphs from it. And now, Glendora says that J.N. Koenig lies a second time and misrepresents and must be sanctioned Rule 11 for presenting a false Rule 9 statement the first time and another false statement the second time. Super. The court will have to read the 200-page book TCI got out on TSAT-A and TSAT-B. J.N. Koenig has misrepresented Rule 9 to the court as well as misrepresented himself as the lawyer on Glendora's case. If J.N. Koenig represents Bob Magnus, why doesn't he answer yes when asked? And this morning I did, when they came out of court. Perkel goes by, Salisbury goes by, Koenig goes by, and Glendora says, do you represent Bob Magnus? If they do, say yes, but they don't say a word. What's that show you? They don't. Do you represent John Malone? Nothing. Do you represent Telecommunications Incorporated? Nothing. Do you represent Barry Marshall? Nothing. And then they get in the elevator and go downstairs, and that obnoxious Frank Weber recovers for them.
Here I go.
obnoxious Frank Weber. The cover's full. Benwell still has not got this court's permission to leave Glendora versus Magnus. Writes Kearney, nevertheless, to avoid any appearance of impropriety or non-compliance, we offer this letter as a supplement to our prior filing under Rule 9. Not only do they not write two-page double-spaced letter briefs, but they write them in little tiny pica, no, even smaller than pica. We also take this opportunity, says Kearney, to correct any misrepresentation that may have arisen from our pleadings regarding a minor point. It's not minor. A factual dispute. It isn't factual dispute. It's a lie concerning the prior availability of free videotape cartridges distributed by TCI Westchester. No such entity as TCI Westchester at the subject video production studio. Now, you know, even a 3-year-old could write better than that. At the request of plaintiff Glendora, we can confirm that such blank videotapes were not generally or consistently made available as free distributions to all public access program producers. So he has been caught in his own lie. He has been found to be lying. We continue to assert that this issue is not relevant to the dispute before the court. Lying is relevant before the court. J.N. Kearney's perjury on this matter, says Glendora, is being dealt with by Glendora in her motion for sanctions. Glendora started working on this motion February 5th. Glendora could not refute reply affidavit due February 7, 1997, J. Kearney's untimely opposition due January 31st, 1997. Yesterday, February 7th, because she had an oral argument with Judge Stein to oppose other dishonest lawyers getting $400,000 from a Cablevision derivative action pursuant to Federal Rules of Civil Procedure 23.1. And she won. They got only $250,000. Glendora, etc. Now, a couple of motions were handed in this morning, and I will read you these motions. There's the full caption. Glendora versus Bob Magnus, John C. Malone, Telecommunications Incorporated, Fred A. Vieira, Brendan Clouston, or Clausen, it should be pronounced, Donnie F. Fisher, who is a man, supposedly John W. Gallivan, Robert A. Nafee, who's associated with United Artists, Tony Coelho, Richard Wadman, who is the so-called manager at Mamaroneck, and Wendy Circuit, who botched up everything and is fired. Notice a motion that undesignated USMJ Fox compel Wiles, Kearney, Perkle, and Salisbury produce proof they represent Glendora's defendants. Movement is plain that Glendora, return date is February 17, 1997, on O'Dominay places the 4th floor courtroom of undesignated magistrate Mark D. Fox. Supporting papers are all papers and oral statements made since this case began in September 1996, as it fully stated herein. Relief requested is stated in the title. Legal bases are stated in plaintiff's affidavit. Now, this is Kermode Wade, an attorney at law, ex-professional in legal formalities, negotiations, or proceedings by authority of his client, and must be licensed and admitted to the practice of the law in the courts of the record of the state. So far, it hasn't been stated that Kearney can practice in the Southern District of New York. Rapp can, but Kearney, they haven't called me back to say that he's allowed to practice in the state of New York. Officers of the court and a thorough examination by a state board advance the ends of justice. Well, Glendora says that Kearney, Wiles, Rapp, Perkle, Salisbury have failed to advance the ends of justice. The fiduciary relationship between an attorney and a client arises notwithstanding that services are provided with or without charge, and the obligation to preserve the confidence and secrets of a client etc. But it is purely a personal relationship between a client and an attorney involving the highest personal trust and confidence, which cannot be delegated without consent. Well, all I'm asking for is to show me that consent. show me that they have the consent of Malone, Magnus, and Telecommunications Incorporated to represent them. An agent has to prove the authority when demanded. Glendora has demanded proof over 30 times. None has been produced. Kearney, Wiles, Rapp, Perkle, Salisbury keep silent. Rapp is admitted to the bar of the United States District Court, Southern District of New York. Kearney is not. Supreme Court in each judicial department is authorized to censure, suspend from practice, or remove from office any attorney and counselor at law admitted to practice who is guilty of professional misconduct, malpractice, fraud, deceit, crime, or misdemeanor, or any conduct prejudicial to the administration of justice. Glendora has a right to challenge the authority of Wiles, Perkle, Kearney, Salisbury to represent their defendants. Glendora has the right to demand proof that Wiles, Perkle, Kearney, and Salisbury represent her defendants. USMJ Fox, not the designated magistrate, has no authority to violate Glendora's right to challenge authority to represent her defendants and to be provided proof of representation. The Center for Judicial Accountability Incorporated heard the Fox audio tape of conference January 17, 1997 on TV, where Glendora demanded proof and USMJ Fox railroaded Kearney, Perkle, and Salisbury through, and where Kearney lied that he had filed a notice of appearance. Where is this notice of appearance? Why do Wiles, Kearney, Perkle, Salisbury merely look blank and remain silent when Glendora is asked over 30 times, do you have proof you represent Bob Magnus? Silence. Do you have proof you represent John C. Malone? Silence. And so it is silence with every defendant. Glendora's witnesses galore. Returning to Carmody Waite, Glendora presents infra. And this is more law. And then there's a case that's a form here. Motion and affidavit in support of challenge to attorney's authority to act for party. 2B, American jurisprudence. I have to get that form. Costco Graphics versus Cohen. No apparent authority to personally represent client. Here's some more Carmody Waite, and that's the end of it. The correctness of Glendora's demands is suggested further by pages 419, Carmody Waite. And this went to those 5¼ hours, it was $6.15. And it went to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 people. This motion also was submitted and served today. You simply walk up to Perkle and say, Perkle, you are served, and hand it to him. Salisbury the same, and Kearney the same. A notice of a motion for Rule 11 sanctions on Kearney for lying that the defendants provided free videotape stock to public access producers. Okay, the return date on that is 17th of February. Legal basis is Rule 11, Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, supporting papers, complaint, and all papers, oral arguments submitted by plaintiff. Here is Rule 11. Signing of pleadings, motions, and other papers, representations to the court, and the sanctions for misrepresentation. Federal Rules of Civil Procedure, Rule 11. And here is the motion. The affidavit in support. Under penalty of perjury, Glendora declares she is telling this court the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Nobody at Telecommunications Incorporated ever provided free videotapes. Wicker lied and Kearney lied. Glendora never received a free videotape of any description. She never knew of anyone who did. She was there for 8 years. Brian Sussman never received free videotapes. When she ran short during editing, Glendora asked for loans, but the answer was always no until she finished for the day. Wicker and Kearney out and out lied under penalty of perjury. This court must give them and the others mentioned the penalty. They committed perjury in broad daylight. Glendora will not be outfoxed by this one. The name of this magistrate is Mark D. Fox. Court lawyers and lawbreakers are going to get into trouble. Warning on this one. And here is John Wicker. Oh, he's a nobody. He's a nobody at the cable TV system in Mamaroneck. And Kearney, this represents to Fox that he is somebody of importance. He has no authority. No authority of position at all. The whole thing is a sham. We'll get them. We'll get them. Folks, here's the whole case, okay? And I was 10 hours, and maybe 4 hours the first time, and maybe 5 hours the middle time, getting this all assembled and getting it in chronological order, all the way from the complaint and making a table of contents for each volume, all the way from the complaint of September the 28th. Table of contents. So, on all of the papers, there's the complaint. Summons. And all of the other papers, all of the reputations of their lies, Koenig and Wiles, and also the judge's lie. To the United States District Court of Appeals for a mandamus. The wacky orders of Barbara Jones, who is a puppet. For whom? Well, maybe for William Connor, United States District Judge, and maybe for Al D'Amato, who all work together to get Glendora off of TV because they don't want you to have the reports. They don't want you to know the bad things they do. And that's volume 1, and this is volume 2. Those are the proof of service by the United States Marshals. When you're in former paupers in the United States District Court, the U.S. Marshals serve your papers for you. The case can't be dismissed because of this. No pro se case can be dismissed, particularly in civil rights, unless the defendants can prove beyond a doubt that the plaintiff has no claim upon which relief cannot be granted. So it took many, many hours yesterday, Sunday. Just before church I started it. After church I resumed it. And worked until 8:30 last night. And this morning I worked on it from 5 a.m. to the time it was to go to court. And the oral argument started at 9 a.m. There's an audio tape of that oral argument. And I will play that for you. So what is the issue? Glendora's summary judgment motion that the plaintiffs do not have a defense and they never will have. All they're doing is lying. What did I tell you the total hours of preparation was? 10, 12 hours. And then came the court appearance. And these are the motions I just read you. You know, folks, remember when you give a speech that the mind cannot absorb more than the seat can endure? And Peter is very active in church. His mother-in-law says, that's right, he squirms and fidgets and he wiggles. And what happens when you cross a microwave with a TV set? You get to watch 60 minutes in a quarter of an hour. I want to read you a paper by Bryant Sussman. He is brilliant. He's a pro se. He went to Hofstra University. And he really writes excellent papers. I can read you one page maybe. His printing is very light. It's hard to read. But he's written all of these papers. He has sued TCI for violation of his civil rights, free speech, and for taking away public access system-wide, and he has sued TCI for taking away our editing. Well, I might have to read you a page at random if I cannot find the page I wanted to read you. Phone and thinks nothing of talking an hour and a quarter. He's not exactly scheduled in the day's activities, so it really gets a person slightly behind. Of course, Congress must have intended to guarantee a public access producer's private right to federal redress. How can the defendant conclude that the plaintiff must depend on his municipal franchising authority to protect his free speech, supposing that plaintiff's speech was critical of his franchising authority? Under that scenario, effective free speech cannot exist, and 47 United States Code 531E, no cable operator shall exercise editorial control over public use of channel, would frequently be violated with the damaged party unable to protect his rights. Certainly this is not the intent of Congress or the Constitution. Certainly Congress has not forbidden a public access producer's federal action. Defendant's faulty conclusion on defendant's reply memorandum of law, pages 4 to 3, is that 47 United States Code 532D affords a private right of action only to a third-party commercial programmer, and that the non-commercial programmer, PEG programmer, may have no right of use at all. To 47 United States Code 532D, however, 47 United States Code 532D grants a private right of action to any aggrieved person. Now, this has all been argued in the Bryant Court. This has all been adjudicated in the Bryant Court between Robert Perry, Brian Grafman, and Charles Bryant. And by the way, Perry filed an amicus brief in the Time Warner case. So it's all been adjudicated. The same argument has been had. In July of 1995, it's all res judicata. Congress demonstrated its intent and purpose regarding the whole of 47 United States Code, Section 521 et sequitur. In Section 521.4, we find to assure that cable communications provide and are encouraged to provide the widest possible diversity of information, sources, and services to the public. 47 United States Code 521.4 demonstrates that Congress intended both explicit and implicit private rights of action in federal court to all of the plaintiff's sussman's causes of action. Cable Television Consumer Protection and Competition Act of 1992, Congressional Findings and Statement of Policy Act, October 5th, 1992, PL 102 to 385. Findings. The Congress finds and declares the following. There is a substantial governmental and First Amendment interest in promoting a diversity of views provided through multiple technology media, a primary objective and benefit of our nation's system of regulation. 47 United States Code 532D, in part, any person aggrieved by the failure or refusal of any cable operator to make channel capacity available for use pursuant to this section may bring an action in the District Court of the United States for the judicial district in which the cable system is located to compel that such capacity be made available. Now, Bryant came over here yesterday afternoon when I was preparing for this oral argument, this great big thing that I showed you, three ring binders, and I showed him that in addition to that, the cable bill that you get from TCI says on it, if you feel that you are aggrieved, you can bring a case in the United States District Court against the cable company. So even the crooks themselves say it. Now, I wish that the audio tape were here of the oral argument this morning on Glendora versus Magnus, the gravamen of which is Magnus, by robbing us of our TV editing, our TV production for public access, robbed us of the opportunity to make a videotape, and if you don't have a videotape to give a cable company, you don't have a program cablecast, and your free speech is and your free press are robbed. So the audio tape rather, of my oral argument between a U.S. magistrate judge, not the designated magistrate, this morning, Franklin is picking up, we hope, this afternoon. But I'm afraid it's too late to play it for you this week. I'm afraid we will have to play it for you next week. So where do we have TCI? We have TCI in the United States Court of Appeals, Second Circuit, on robbing us of system-wide Channel 8. That's Glendora versus Malone. We have TCI in the United States Court of Appeals with the atrocious, poor, sappy order of Barbara S. Jones, Glendora versus Telecommunications, where I was telling about the telephone conversation, and actually played the telephone conversation of Judge Connor, and TCI turned off the audio. Out and out censorship. And in America, Barbara S. Jones says censorship is well and alive. Nothing to worry about. You can censor anybody you want. That's American, isn't it? We have TCI this morning in the United States District Court on Glendora versus Magnus, where the cause of action is, as I told you, robbing us of our TV editing, public access production. Now, as soon as these lawsuits are over, we're going to activate the municipalities to sue TCI. TCI knew fully well in the summer of 1995 that they were going to rob us of system-wide public access Channel 8 and that they were going to take away our editing. But they never told the municipal supervisors that and let them go ahead and sign the contract. That was fraud and misrepresentation, and the supervisors say that. They say that in several letters. And as Brian Sussman points out, at the very moment that TCI got all of those letters and protests from the supervisors of these 18 committees, TCI right then and there had broken the law. Now we got to, Paul Feiner wants to support. Fox wasn't clear whether he'd let Feiner write a letter and Kavanaugh write a letter. I don't know what we'll do about that. That would be a big project. We'll have to find out if we can do that. Anyway, the audio tape I don't think is going to be here now in time to play for you this week. So we try to play it to you next week. It's a half an hour. It's long. They should print tax forms on Kleenex for those of you who have to pay through the nose. And IBM and Goodyear should merge so that they can manufacture a computer that makes snap decisions. And they have automobiles that talk, and scales that talk, and refrigerators that talk. What we need is a washing machine that can talk. And we'll tell you what it did with the other sock. Blessed are those who hear the word of God and keep it. And God bless you. And fight for your rights. They don't get away with it. Fight. USA. Oh, what is his name? Solved all the problems. This is an PC card. It's really ding. Oh, it's great. And it has a to report television active. I told him I wanted December 6th. It took February the 10th disconnect. I am rid of cable TV operator. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We got to straighten that out. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 testing. Hear this microphone over here. Oh, yeah, very well. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10 testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 testing. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 testing. Let's get back now. Crackle. Hey, there's no crackle. I want to go try the and hook up a light to it and see if that causes a crackle. Okay? Okay, now we're going to put the light in an extension cord to see this cable pad over. March the two balls, mics, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. They're going to be sent 7 to 5 year probation. Well, they're going to be sentenced to it. It's up to the judge. Okay, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 28, 29. Oh, that's pretty. I think our test is over. We don't have any crackle, and it was microphone. Okay. Of course, the real test would be, but that wouldn't be. I can't carry it. I think our. Okay. Let's see. I've got. Carl, help me. Let's see if I've got it. And I wanted you to hear just before they were ready. Nope, Jennifer.
Back. Message 2 in London, January 2. Hello, this is night shift cable fisher. Please give me a call back when you're available.
Thank you, David.
6:25 a.m. Day, January 2. I'm not sure if I have the right line. I'm calling for Jasmine. My name is Tommy. She can call me at 2567. End of messages. Or star for help.
Okay. At the time now, 9:36 a.m., I just called the police. And I think there are injuries. All I can figure is that the red car was coming south on Green. My coat on. Yeah, red car was coming south on Greenwich this way. And that and that the blue car was going east on Rutherford, and that the red car hit that old fire post, which should have been taken down by the city of and skidded and came over a tree. Now, there's an elderly woman in the passenger seat. I just called the police, as I say. With the wind chill now 10 below. Date is February the 17th, 1997, Monday. This is at in Greenridge in White Plains. This is so-called President's Day, which is a loafer's day, and the Japanese are right about America. It's nobody. Okay, here are the police and the ambulance I would call. I'm going to get in out of this window video. This is mighty cold. The woman getting out. Oh, she looks in good shape. Oh, that's good. Okay, we're videotaping Franklin. They just took the car away. Did you see the car that was here? They just made it move it. Anyway, that was a car that hit this car. That was a car that hit this car. Now, the car that was just pulled away came up to this right here in Rockford going west. And he went through the stop sign. He hit this car. And this car has a man of about 70 years old. And I guess he has been out of the car. And he's going, there's a man right there. He was hit broadside, it looks to me. When I called the police, didn't it? She's a good cop. One time she was bad, but she's a really good cop. Here's the driver. Here's the woman who was in the passenger. Don't sign. The poor guy, how can he sign anything? Being in an accident like that. License, registration, and insurance cards, said she. We had another fire truck that came and went. You saw that when Frank was videotaping. We had 3 fires. So that's a count. 5 trucks, and 2 police cruisers. Oh, that's what the pool was signed. He's got a for it now. He's got a for it. That's why he had. That's at Cook and Abbey Richmond. They did that for Frank. Oh, no, that's no good. That's good. That's really crooked. There must be a lawyer around here somewhere. Somebody's got to be a lawyer. And this is my neighbor, too, at 1A. Oh, rather he was... half an inch of snow. Then the temperature went up, and then it rained. And then it made the icy and it hasn't had time to melt.
Your wife is Mercedes.
Oh, good Lord. That's good. Really seriously hurt. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 firemen. What are they going to do with the poor lady? Somebody helping. She shouldn't be going over there alone. She's getting into the cruiser. Okay. Apparently they're going to the hospital. But then Abby Richmond, what did they have to do? Come to the hospital. And apparently the gentleman driver is going to the hospital. Now we don't have a tow truck. So that's next up. We have a policeman directing traffic. And that was helping out immediately when it happened. Where he appears from. He appears in another accident. And that appears. Okay, these are 2 policemen. The 2 victims. Let me show you that the White Plains did away with all of the firefighters, street corners, and they haven't got around to taking this one away. It's cold out here for the camera. The wind is bad. Oh, fireman with an axe. This is February 7th, so-called President's Day, Loafers Day. Nobody. Okay, we're going to fade down.
It's so sad. That is so sad. I feel so sad for those, all of the people. Apparently the elderly couple in the maroon car were going south on Greenwich. Okay, going south on Greenwich. My neighbor who lives across the hall was going west on Rutherford. And he's looking down south on Greenwich because that's where he lives and that's where he's going to park. And he started to go. And he didn't look north on Greenwich again. And that's when the other came through there and he hit him. Oh, I feel so sorry for all of those poor people.
Tenants and neighbors, you must join because Joe Bruno on June 16th said that rent control and rent stabilization cease to exist. We have to. Joe Bruno, Majority Leader, New York State Senate, December 5th, 1996. We need our rent control. You need your rent control in the state of New York. So to oppose this, I want you all to join tenants and neighbors, of course, unless you're a landlord. And I imagine that Mr. Bruno and the other supporters are getting well compensated in some way or another to get rent control. And remember, the landlord has $1 million lobby, and what do tenants have? Nothing. So they're the ones who are going to be robbed, as all little people get robbed by the. So I'm going to give you their telephone number. It's 2 Manhattan, easy to remember, isn't it? And 695, remember that. That's a route near the Hogs Neck Bridge. And then the last part is 414. So join tenants and neighbors and join them to stop landlords from robbing us of rent control. Play that back. Hear that beautiful audio? Well, it was what we said. Why didn't you tell me that? Franklin, thank you for going to us a new our
And happy Valentine's Day. I love you. Landlords and legislators in the state of New York and Albany. We have to watch them. I know a few things that my landlord is not following. Section 300 of, you know, I'm reading the New York statutes. Okay. I think you know that I'm up to Book 22. Book 22 is multiple dwelling law and the multiple housing law. And Section 300 of that law is the registry of the owner. And it is on or before July 1st, 1954, every owner of a multiple dwelling shall file with the department, that would be the building department of the municipality in which you live, in this case White Plains, a statement and duplicate on a form to be prepared by the department substantially as follows: the owner of the record, the street number or other identifying description, the type of construction, frame, brick, stucco, etc., the height of the building, the number of stories, and the number of rooms or apartments for which design. The number of stories doesn't refer to what you get from the landlord when he tries to rent it to you. And the number of persons in the occupancy. Now this is not a certificate of occupancy. That is something different. What else is wrong about this landlord is no superintendent. And it's 16 units. And you must have a superintendent live on the premises or at least 2 feet away from the premises. What is wrong with this landlord is the drainage, improper drainage. Every time it rains, the cellar fills with puddles. What else is this landlord? The sewer smells, and it should not do that. What else is wrong? There should be a smoke detector in every one of these 16 units. And I believe that the landlord is trying to get by with just having a smoke detector on the first floor in the hallway of each building and on the second floor in the hallway of each building. And this is my reading, and this is the file for the New York statutes, and this is Book 22. And I'll just give you an idea, folks, of the grid, how many more books I have to go. There's 7 shelves, and I'm at the very end of the 4th shelf. So you see, I think I'm almost halfway or a little over halfway maybe. But here's the grid of them. Excuse me. Of the books. General business, insurance. I'm not going to read those volumes, certainly. And judiciary law, I finished that one, and that reveals all of the things that judges are supposed to do and never are. And labor law. And this is the number of the book. You see that one goes from 61 to what? 70. And then the volume, and then the number of the law, the chapter of the law. And so going forward, let's get you another page here. Here are volumes 71 to 80. Penal law, that is not of interest to me. And here's 81 to 90, books 81 to 90. And so this is the grid, 91 to 100. Religious corporation law, I looked that up when people in my church things that they should not have been doing. And 101 to 110 books. Tax law, uniform commercial code. Someday maybe I'll finish them, but I got good news for you on this account. Hey, look, here's the last. It's book 130 and the Supreme Court rules. Now this is the consolidated laws of the state of New York. I rejoice to tell you this, finish the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure. A little more like it. There's only 81 of them. 81 or 84, something like that, and then there's forms. So that's a little more like it. The state, it really ought to clean up its act. The state doesn't have any pro se clerks. The state calls inform apocryphal four-person. And this is the reading, as I say, I'm almost done, the multiple dwelling law and the multiple housing law. And that's section 83 that you have to have a janitor or a housekeeper if you have over 13 units. This is what the multiple residence law looks like. The multiple dwelling law was a 29 law. Pretty old, huh? As old as I am. I was born in 28. And it applies to in New York of 325,000 or over. Now that's only New York and Boston. And then the multiple housing law was 1954 on, and it applies to cities of 325,000. So that's pretty much you and me. Certainly the city of White Plains, which isn't even 100,000, I don't think. Okay. So we will work on this, and then we will either file a lawsuit or we will file a complaint with the building department, or but anyway, we will get this resolved. You see, you have to know your rights and you have to know the law. New York Shield keeps calling us. So we just tell them we don't have any money. It's amazing how quickly they hang up. You know, there's that joke that I tell you that the minister told in church. He went, a man to buy a hearing aid, and the owner of the store says, well, I have one that's $2,500, I have one that's $1.98, and well, what's the difference? Well, the one with $2,500 has a lot of gas and advanced electronics and technology. Well, what's the one $1.98 like? Well, it's a button on a string, and you put the button in your ear and you put the string in your pocket. You'd be amazing how loudly people start talking to you. I have a bunch of announcements for you. That one is an accident. love you.
We have good news from Continental Cablevision. Starting March 1st, 1997 on WE. Chat with Glendora is going to go back to being seen every Saturday on channel 19 every Saturday. You don't have to wait every other week the way you have been since August 1995. So we, Barbara Gelman just called me. Thank Barbara Gelman for that. And it will be simultaneously every Saturday at 3 p.m. on channel 32 North. And the reason for that is that if it were to be simultaneously on channel 19 North and channel 19 South, 3 p.m. every Saturday, we would have to take two tapes up. One would have to go to Peekskill, and one would have to go to Austin. This way, we just have to do what we've always done for all these years. Since 1993, we just have to take one tape to Austin. And we have new Steve up there, and old Steve has got a good job with CNN, and I believe Minor has a good job with PIX, PIX or something. So that's good that the people are moving on and up. That's what they want. So good news, and we thank you, Diane Rainey. Franklin left a message for Richard McCormick, who is the CEO of U.S. West, who bought Continental Cablevision and hosletter and all the rest of them. Franklin told Paula that he wanted McCormick to call Glendora, and instead a woman called Glendora, a vice president. And she has something to do with law and with human relations. Okay. So, yesterday Franklin called Mr. McCormick again and left a message for Mr. McCormick to call, second time. Glendora left a message for Mr. Lewis, simply saying, is there anything you want to say to Glendora before she takes Amos B. Hosstetter to the United States Supreme Court? And so that brings us up to today's work, which is being postponed because there's so much other things. Pinch and Ginny Cat. Yeah, come on over, Ginny Cat. She tried to get in the desk drawer. And so he has started Glendora versus Hosstetter going to the United States Supreme Court. And the first thing up is the informer papyrus and the affidavit, the declaration that goes with it. I'm working on this 15 minutes a day. You have 90 days from the time you get the mandate. Is it from the time you get the mandate, or is it from the time you get the decision? Anyhow, you got 90 days to write a petition for writ of certiorari to the United States Supreme Court. And new Steve, or a lot of Steves, or whatever, somebody got the schedule all mixed up Saturday, February the 15th, and a chat with Glendora was not seen at 3 p.m. Saturday, February 15th at its regular, because things are all mixed up. And so New Steve put it on Sunday at 4:30 on Channel 19 South. And then there's going to be a make good on it at 6 p.m. Wednesday on Channel 19 South. Third matter on Glendora versus Hosstetter et al. Is Judge Lisa Margaret Smith. She has
the decision on the summary judgment yet. Maybe she's waiting for kind of a cop-out, such as the program goes back to being every week. Okay, that's not going to do it. There are still $225 million damages, or whatever they were, and there's still all of the make-goods, all the time that we lost and all of the free speech that we lost. The damage, of course, would be for taking away a person's free speech and for breaking the law. It would be compensatory and punitive damages, and the laws that were broken were public access. It's first come, first served. Glendora was first. Our program should have stayed right where it was every Saturday instead of being bumped every other Saturday in another program. So there's that law that's broken, and of course that entails the free speech, improper abridging of free speech. Continental, and let's see if I can find some jokes. Bob had an interesting job. He was a specialist. He was the one who put one cashew in a can of mixed nuts. And what do you call a veterinarian who specializes in elephant skin disease? A dermatologist. And Bob says, I don't feel like I'm a success at my job. Why? Well, whenever they hire a new employee, they first bring him to me to view the company from the bottom up. And when Peter came home from work, his wife said, how was it today, dear? And Peter says, oh, it was terrible. The computer broke down and I had to think. Now we are going to move on to the worst cable operator we have. That would be John Malone, Bob Magnus, Communications Incorporated. And we're going to report to you their law breaking and on crooked lawyers and on corrupt judges. And this, folks, here they are at last. These are the minutes of the depositions of Franklin and Glendora taken by Benoit. And it is no wonder, folks, that he didn't want you to hear these. And it is no wonder that he wouldn't give them to us. It's no wonder he didn't want them to get into the courts, he didn't want the judges to see them, and he didn't want you to hear them. But here they are. And this one is a deposition of Glendora, started on June the 17th, 1996. And I'm going to read you a few pages of it. Wallace says, do you have any other residences besides 21 Greenridge Avenue? Glendora, no comment. Wallace, and is that a refusal to answer the question? Glendora, no response. Are you currently employed? Glendora, no. Wiles, when was the last time you were employed? Wiles, read that in the Informa Pauperis. What was the job you had when you were last employed? Read the Informa Pauperis. Of course that. Do you know what an Informa Pauperis is? Do you know what an employee is? Did you receive a copy of the Informa Pauperis? Do you know what employee is? Did you receive a copy of the Informa Pauperis? Read it. Do you understand what my question is? Glendora, read it. You understand what my answer is? I understand what you're saying, Wiles says, but you are not answering the question. Glendora, read the Informa Pauperis. That information has already been given to the court. Wiles, I know, and I can ask you questions even if you provided information. Glendora, no argument. Do you want to do? Wiles, I can ask for information and I need you to answer the question. Glendora, I answered the question. Read the Informa Pauperis. I'm not going to answer every question of yours 3 times. Wiles, I think one answer would be enough. Let's see to that then. Glendora says, here's a copy of the Informa Pauperis, so you get it out of the file. Wiles, do you have a copy of that Informa Pauperis petition with you? Glendora, yes. Wiles, could you show it to me? Glendora, no. I really don't think you can ask me any questions about my financial status. You are really wasting your time. Wiles, mark this as an exhibit. Glendora, show me what you are marking as an exhibit. Wow. She will as soon as she marks it. Then it was a declaration in support of request to proceed in form of paupers was marked as Defendant's Exhibit A. Wow. Do you identify this? Is that your signature on the second page of the Exhibit A, Glendora? Yes. At the bottom of the page? Yes. And do you recognize this as in form of paupers petition or declaration in support of request to proceed in form of paupers that you submitted in this case of Glendora versus Cablevision Systems? Glendora, I think I already said so. Wow. And the answer to question number 2, you talk about previous employment, and the entry on the form says 1983 MCI, 3 days as a telemarketer. Glenn, you hold all the questions on the IFP. That IFP was approved by Chief Judge Grisey. He is the one who examined it. He approved it. You have any questions, you ask him. Wow. I am referring to employment information for now, which I think is the same as the employment information you supplied in the IFP in this case. Glendora, same answer. If you have any questions, ask Chief Judge Grisey. Wiles, the previous employment is 1983. Were you ever employed any time between 1983 and the present? Glendora, same answer. This IFP was approved by Judge Grisey. Wiles, I'm not asking about the IFP. I am getting basic employment background. Were you employed in 1983 by MCI? Glendora, what does the IFP say? Wiles, well, is the IFP accurate? Is the entry on the IFP accurate? Glendora, that is a superfluous question. Prior to assuming it is accurate, prior to 1983, what was your employment? Glendora, I don't think it's relevant. How many years ago is 1983? Wiles, this is, well, I'm simply trying to get some background information as a witness. I am going to go back until high school and college. What year did you graduate from high school? Glendora, no comment. Wiles, isn't this the 50th? Glendora, I can't hear you, Mr. Wiles, stop. Wiles, isn't this the 50th reunion of your high school class this year? Glendora, if you knew, why did you ask? Wiles, and assuming you graduated high school in 1947, did you go to college after that? Glendora, what is the relevance of your question? Wiles, it's simple basic information to get. Glendora, that is not an answer, Mr. Wiles. Wiles, to get information, are you refusing to answer based on the grounds of irrelevance? Simply, if you are going to refuse to answer on that ground, we will note it down and see if the judge wants you to answer or not. It's easier if you say that I am not going to answer instead of the silences. Glendora, it's like if it was easier if I just added UCCA Columbia Cablevision doing business as TCI. I will not take anything from you because it's easier. Wiles, it's easier for the reporter. Glendora, don't try to con me. Wiles, have you ever had any post-high school education? Glendora, objection on the grounds of relevance. Wiles, have you had any professional training? Glendora, I don't know what you mean. Wiles, training in a, well, professional training which would be post-college education, or it could be professional training where you go to a trade school to learn a particular profession. Glendora, objection on the grounds of irrelevance. You remember that Mr. Brian Sullivan would not say where he went to school. Brian Sullivan's the one who's head of this whole Northeast TCI mess up in Albany, Clifton Park. Wow. Anyway, Glendora says, you remember that Mr. Brian Sullivan wouldn't say where he went to school. Wow. He wouldn't say where he went to high school. Glendora. And he wouldn't say what town he was brought up in, would he? Do you consider yourself, Wiles says, to be an expert in the field of cable television? So you see, I got rid of him on that. Do you consider yourself, says Wiles to Glendora, to be an expert in the field of cable television or public access programming television? Glendora, restate your question. Mr. Wiles, could you read it back? The last question was read back by the reporter. Which? Glendora asks. Public access programming or on cable television. Now, restate your question completely, Glendora says. Wow, do you consider yourself to be an expert in the area of public access programming on cable television? Let me ask you, Glendora says, what are the other public access programs? What other public access programming is there? Well, do you understand the question? Glendora, no, I would like to know before I answer the question, what other public access programming is there? Well, do you understand the question I asked? Glendora, is there any other public access program besides cable TV, yes or no? Wow, I have no opinion on that. Glendora, okay, well, when you can understand the question that you asked, then I will try to answer it. You're refusing to answer now, though. Is that correct? Glendora, no response. Wow, I take it from her silence that she's refusing to answer. Glendora, objection, lie, railroad. Wow, let's assume for the next few minutes we are talking about the period January 1996. Would you stop mumbling your words? Glendora says, I cannot understand what you are saying. He is the worst mumbler. You say nothing of bumbling and bungling. Glendora, no, wow, you have to sit a little closer where you can hear better. Glendora, I don't want to sit any closer. It's a matter of enunciation. Stop chewing your words. Glendora, the question asked about January of 1996, did you produce a public access program? Glendora, as to what locality? Wild, any locality. Glendora, in any locality? Wild, yes. Glendora, I did not produce a public access program in California. Did you produce one in any locality? Glendora, I think you have to specify what locality you're talking about. Wild, did you produce a public access program in any locality? Glendora, objection on grounds of vagueness. Wild, do you know what a public access program is? Glendora, well, you wouldn't specify what other places had public access program besides cable TV. Are there any other places where public access programming exists other than cable TV? If you will narrow your question, Glendora says, public access programming to cable TV, maybe I could answer the question. Maybe I could answer it. Are you aware of the program whose title or name is A Chat with Glendora? Wild says. Glendora, yes. And is that a public access program? Glenn, yes. And was it a public access program in January 1996? Was cable cast over one or more cable television systems? Yes. And now you see, that's a double question. He never should have done that either. He should have said, was it a public access program in January 1996? Yes. Was it cable cast over one or more cable television systems? Yes. Wow. And over which cable television system was it cable cast in about January 1996? Glendora, TCI. Wow. Any others? Glendora, objection on grounds of relevance. What is this lawsuit about? Who are the defendants in this lawsuit? Are any other cable television systems lawsuits in this action? I think there's only one cable television system that's in this action, and that's TCI. Wow. Do you know whether the cable television program A Chat with Glendora was a cable cast over cable television systems other than TCI in January 1996? Glendora, that's the same question, and now I have the same objection. Why? No, it's not. I didn't ask you the name. I asked you if they were. Glendora, same objection. Irrelevance. Wow. Do you produce a cable television program entitled A Chat with Glendora? Glendora, you asked that. Wow, I don't believe I did. Could you answer it again? No, I'm not answering it again. How did you answer that question when I asked it previously? You have a court stenographer. Ask her to read you the record. Wow, could you look back for the question? The testimony was read back by the reporter. Wow, do you produce the television program entitled A Chat with Glendora? Glendora, you asked me that. The answer is yes, and don't ask me again. Wow, and does anyone assist you in producing the television program entitled A Chat with Glendora? Glendora, specifically, what do you mean? Do you work with anyone else when you produce the television program? For instance, in what way? In any way. Sorry, that's not an acceptable answer. Specify what you mean. Give a for instance. Do you, when you produce a television program, is anyone operating the camera, any other individual operating the camera? Glendora, no. Wow. When you produce a television program, do you produce it or make the tape? First of all, you produce the cable television program on videotape? Glendora, I don't know what you mean by produce it on videotape. You mean, is the program videotape? Is that what you mean? Is the program videotape? Wow. Well, you can answer that question. Is the program videotape? Yes. And do you produce a final version of the videotape that is used for cable casting in a studio or Glendora? Try again. Okay, folks, that's the first 15 minutes. Isn't that outrageous that a lawyer should be so incompetent? This is Ben Wiles. He got fired, you know, from Cohen and Dax, a rinky-dink law firm up in Albany, and who try to make us believe they're representing billionaires, John C. Malone and Bob Magnus. No way. Okay, red on TV up to here on 2/17/97, Monday, 1:53 p. It would be nice to read it all to you. I'll read as much as I can. Moving on, TCI. Is Franklin's research at the New York State Supreme Court Library, and he is tracking down what we shall do about Koenig saying he represents billionaires, Magnus and the other ones, and Perkel saying he represents only John Malone. Yet when you call Denver, as Franklin does, and talk to the legal department of TCI, they say that all defendants are, they say that Magnus and Malone and telecommunications are all represented by Perkel. They never mention Cohen Dax. And so Franklin is tracking this down, and he's doing a great job. And here he has a notice of motion to compel attorney to show authority to act for the party. And of course Fox comes along and railroads and ignores it and puts it under the rug. And that's going to be very serious for Fox, because if the Fox doesn't deal with this, then all of these cases are going to have to be litigated over. So I'm at the point now where I'm getting ready, and I don't have the time right now to write this motion that these attorneys has to compel to show authority to get to represent the party. Okay, big issue. And Fox and Rakoff railroaded this through on Glendora versus Malone. And Jones, who says censorship is alive and well in America, you can censor in America. Jones railroaded it through in Glendora versus telecommunications. So maybe these lawsuits will all have to be adjudicated over again because of failure in judgmentship. And what is this? This is an appellant's brief, and it is on Glendora versus telecommunications, where TCI turned off the audio when I was reporting on Judge Connor, who was caught red-handed ex parte and had a telephone conversation with me, and I had recorded that conversation, and it was being played on TCI. TCI turned off the audio. And Jones comes along and says, that's okay, you can censor in America. America is a place where you can censor. On Friday, February the 14th, Valentine's Day, I called Koenig, and I called Salisbury, and I called Perkel, and I told them that I wanted a conference with the Judge Rakoff chambers. There's a whole lot of things. Judge Rakoff has 60 days to rule on a motion, and this motion has been fully submitted to him since November the 26th, and here it is February the 17th, and he hasn't ruled on it. And we have a rule in the United States District Court, Southern District of New York, that if the judge doesn't rule on a motion within 60 days, he has to report it. to the whole court. And that is a ripped down, very bad job by Kin and by Rakoff, substandard job, and that's on audio tape 859 too. I don't know if you want me to play it for you or not, but it certainly gives you a lot of insight into how bad judges are, and how incompetent they are, and how ineffectual they are. And I have that audio tape if you want me to play it to you. Over here we have the Rule 9 statement, where the whole purpose of the Rule 9 statement is to reveal to the court what stock symbols the companies have public tradings under, and so that the judge can see whether he's a shareholder or not, and if he's a shareholder, he mustn't stay on the case. And so the whole Rule 9 statement was faulty in Glendora versus Malone, in Glendora versus Telecommunications, and in Glendora versus Magnus. And for instance, in the mail yesterday, TCI is going to make a new offering for the telephony group, telephone, for the telephony group. And they're going to have 2 new stock symbols. And they list, in telling you in this proxy statement, that meeting is going to be March 12th. You want to go with me? And we can tell John Malone off. It's going to be on March the 12th, 1997 in Denver at the company's headquarters. And in telling about this, they list all kinds of stock holdings that are not listed in these crooked lawyers' so-called Rule 9 statements. So we're going to get out another letter brief to Magistrate Fox about that. Something else in this envelope, and that is the minutes that Judge Fox ordered to be given to Glendora without charge. And I thank you for that, Judge Fox. And here are those minutes. And this is of the February 17th conference, where Glendora challenged the authority of Koenig and Salisbury and Perkel to be representing her defendants. Now you see, that's very important, because if the defendants have been falsely represented, then they have been represented, then they are in default, and therefore they owe Glendora $600 million. This tape you have heard, so I guess I won't read these to you, because you've heard them. But it was nice for Judge Fox to get these to me without charge. Now who paid for them, I wonder? It should be John Malone. And it's interesting that this Glendora pro se and that crooked Wiles handed in the name Glendora last name when he shouldn't have on minutes in Glendora versus Malone. So it's refreshing to see this with the right name, Glendora. Now here is the stock offering. This is Telecommunications Incorporated. I got to block. Television. Telecommunications Incorporated. Dear stockholder, you are cordially invited to attend a special meeting of stockholders of Telecommunications Incorporated, TCI, which be held at the company's corporate headquarters located at 5619 DTC Park, Englewood, Colorado, on March the 12th, 1997. At 10 a.m. local time. They're all pretty local. A notice of the special meeting, a proxy card, and a proxy statement containing important information about the matters to be acted on at the special meeting are enclosed, and I have already handed in my proxy. And it says for or against, and I am against. Proposal to approve the amendment of the restated certificate of incorporation of Telecommunications Incorporated to A, authorize 2 new series of the common stock, par value $1 per share, of Telecommunications Incorporated, to consist of 750 million new and so forth. You don't need the details. And corresponding increase in the total number of authorized shares of common stock. They need money. Malone has done such a rotten job running this company that he put it into the ground. And so he needs money, and he needs it fast, because somebody else is going to come along and buy Bob Magnus's shares, and Malone will be out. And I will show you Malone's signature on this. And it looks like he's going to be chairman of this new company, this new they spin off, spin off, spin off. Roll, roll, roll. There's his signature. John C. Malone. The murderer of public access. The murderer of public access TV production. Did you know that TCI owns Sprint? Yeah, they bought Sprint. Did you know that TCI owns Cox Cable? Yes, they bought that. Did you know that Robert Wright, now the president of NBC, used to be the president of Cox Cable Television? Did you know that TCI is trying out telephones with cable TV telephones in Buffalo and in Kansas City? And wireline residential telephone service. It doesn't sound to me like it's going to fly, does it to you? And don't give him any money. And remember all of you, never to buy a satellite named Primestar, because that's owned by TCI. Ed said that he has a key job at Local. His mother-in-law said, yeah, it's his job to lock up at night. And lawyers get, and that's $1,041,250 in legal labor. 49 volumes of Dolan Tata Quinn law-breaking, lying, and covering up. 16,066 pages of traitorship to America. 6 file drawers, 3 years, 2 months. 315 TV programs, a bad record, Dolan Tata and Quinn, and 355 mailings. Let me talk to you about the derivative action. I have not heard from anybody as to my motion to alter, to amend, relief from judgment, okaying the settlement on the Cablevision derivative action where the stockbrokers had inside information, sold the stock, made over $1 million, prejudiced the stockholders, and Cablevision did nothing about it, and a woman named Margaret Wodzinski brought a derivative action, and the lawyer, and I got the lawyer fees, I think it was myself, got the lawyer's fees down from $400,000 to $250,000. I haven't heard anything from them. On the next to the newest lawsuit against Cablevision, Glendora shareholder versus the board of directors of Cablevision Systems Corporation in the Eastern District of New York, Southern District of New York, Eastern District of New York, United States District Court. The informa pauperis on that has been approved. And so now the next step is for the marshals to serve the defendant. It's great to have a United States Marshal come to your door and say you were served. I noticed in TCI, whom I sued 3 times, that the United States Marshal served the first lawsuit, Glendora versus Malone. They just laughed that off. And then the second lawsuit, Glendora versus Telecommunications, right away. They quickly got in their admission of service. So the second time they knew what it meant. And the third time, when I sued Glendora versus Bob Magnus, they got in there